You want to know what makes a bad woman not cruel, not careless, not cold. Bad because she refuses to be broken. Bad because she dares to live unedited, unapologetic, and unafraid. And if that word makes you uncomfortable, lean in. Because this isn't about rebellion. It's about reclaiming power. You want to know what makes a bad woman? She doesn't shrink for anyone. That's the first thing you notice about her. She walks into a room like she belongs there, because she does. She doesn't scan faces looking for approval. She doesn't sit with her legs crossed and her voice soft to make herself smaller, quieter, easier to digest. She speaks with certainty. She stands tall, not because she's arrogant, but because she knows what it took to unlearn the instinct to disappear. The world taught her to be quiet, agreeable, submissive, but she's done playing that game. She's not here to blend in. She's here to be seen. People will try to make her feel guilty for that. They'll call her intimidating. They'll label her bossy or dramatic or difficult. But they don't understand. Those words were never hers to carry. They're just the names people give powerful women when they don't know how to handle them. A bad woman knows that. She doesn't internalize it. She doesn't try to soften herself to soothe fragile egos. She knows exactly who she is, and she knows that strength makes people uncomfortable. That's not her problem. That's a mirror. She doesn't exist to make other people feel safe in their smallness. Her presence is an invitation to rise, not a threat to fear. She's not loud because she needs attention. She's loud because her silence was stolen for too long. She was told to smile more, to tone it down, to stop asking so many questions, to be grateful for what she was given, even when it wasn't enough. She spent years hiding behind a nice. Years pretending she was okay with crumbs. Years believing that making others happy was more important than honoring herself. But now she speaks. Clearly, boldly, without a nervous laugh at the end of every sentence. She doesn't downplay her intelligence. She doesn't disguise her opinions as questions. She owns the room because she owns herself. She doesn't play the game of self-deprecation either. You won't hear her belittle her accomplishments to make others feel comfortable. She knows humility isn't about shrinking. It's about standing in your power without needing to compare or compete. When she wins, she celebrates out loud. When she fails, she doesn't hide. She shows up anyway, bruised but unbroken. That's the kind of resilience most people only read about in books. But she lives it every single day. You can't control her with flattery. You can't manipulate her with guilt. And you sure as hell can't shame her into silence. She's not here to be everyone's favorite. She's not playing for applause. She's playing for truth. For integrity. For a life that feels aligned, not just admired. She has no interest in fitting into a world that only offers her a fraction of herself. She's not molding. She's not performing. She's not begging for permission to exist fully. She's already doing it. And maybe that scares people. Maybe it even scares her sometimes. Because there's no map for this kind of living. There's no handbook for how to be a woman who refuses to disappear. But she keeps showing up anyway. Unshrinkable. Because she knows that shrinking doesn't protect her. It erases her. And she didn't survive everything she's been through just to vanish. She survived to take up space, to speak with fire, to remind the world. A bad woman doesn't back down. She rises. She doesn't flinch when she says no. She doesn't backpedal, over-explain, or wrap it in politeness to make it easier for someone else to swallow. Boundaries are not up for debate. She doesn't ask for permission to protect her energy, her time, or her mental clarity, because she knows this. When you don't have boundaries, you become a battlefield. Everyone walks through you. Everyone takes from you. And before you know it, you're bleeding out and smiling through it, just to be liked. But she's past that now. She's done negotiating her worth in the name of being agreeable. She sets the line, and she doesn't apologize for it. She used to be the girl who said yes to things she didn't want, who laughed off disrespect, who stayed quiet when her gut screamed leave. She used to carry the weight of everyone's comfort like it was her responsibility to keep the peace at all costs. But peace built on self-abandonment isn't peace. It's a prison. And one day, she realized no one was going to free her but herself. That's when everything shifted. Now she doesn't hesitate to walk away. Not to be cruel, but to be clear. Because clarity is kindness, and boundaries are the highest form of self-respect. People will say she's changed, that she's cold now, that she's distant. But what they really mean is she stopped letting them cross lines they had no business crossing in the first place. She stopped entertaining the bare minimum. She stopped making space for people who only show up to drain her. And when she said, "This is where I end and you begin," some took offense because they were never used to her having edges. They liked her soft and silent. But she's not shrinking anymore. She's sharpening. She's defining the shape of her life on her terms. She understands now that boundaries aren't walls. They're doors. She chooses to open or close depending on who's knocking. She's not guarding herself out of fear. She's guarding what she's built. Her growth. Her peace. Her ease. She knows how hard she worked to become the woman she is today, and she won't let anyone drag her back into the chaos she clawed her way out of. That kind of clarity doesn't come easy. It comes from pain, from lessons, from 1,000 quiet moments where she chose herself when no one else did. And she doesn't just set boundaries with others, she sets them with herself. She catches the old patterns creeping in, the people pleasing, the overfunctioning, the habit of putting herself last. She sees it now, and she stops it in its tracks. Because healing means becoming the kind of woman you needed when you were breaking, and that woman, she says no when it costs her peace. She doesn't chase validation. She doesn't hustle for worth. She honors her needs like they matter, because they do. Some will misunderstand her. They'll say she's too guarded, too independent, too much. Let them talk, because she's not building a life that makes sense to everyone. She's building a life that feels safe, authentic, and powerful. A life where she doesn't feel like she has to split herself into just to belong. A life where she can breathe, speak, and exist without editing. And if someone can't respect her boundaries, they don't get access to her anymore. Not because she's cruel, but because she's finally clear. She owns her story. Every chapter, even the ones written in pain. She doesn't run from her past or pretend it didn't shape her. She holds it in her hands, looks it in the eye, and says, "You don't get to control me anymore," because there's a quiet kind of power in a woman who no longer hides. A woman who can speak her truth without shaking. A woman who has stopped scrubbing her history clean just to make others more comfortable. She knows that the messy parts, the broken pieces, the moments she thought would destroy her, those are the ones that built her backbone. She used to live in fear of being judged, fear of being too exposed, fear that if people really knew what she had walked through, they'd turn away, but over time, do something sacred. The more she spoke her truth, the more she gave others permission to do the same. Vulnerability stopped feeling like weakness and started becoming her superpower. Because when you stand in your truth, no matter how cracked or chaotic, it can't be used against you anymore. How to take her scars and turn them into a map for someone else's healing. She doesn't just survive anymore, she leads. And not from perfection, but from experience, from the deep, hard-earned knowing that life doesn't have to break you to be beautiful. But even if it does, you can still rise. People often think strength looks like having it all together, like being untouched by the hard things. Like she knows better, she knows strength is found in the wreckage. Rebuilding. She's not trying to pretend anymore. She's not hiding her struggles and shame. She's showing up as she is, knowing that honesty connects in ways perfection never could. She understands that her story isn't a burden, it's a bridge. And no, not everyone can handle it. Not everyone will know what to do with her honesty. Some will judge, some will distance themselves, but she's okay with that now. She's not performing for acceptance anymore. She's not molding herself to be palatable. The right people will see her scars and still call her whole. The right people will recognize the beauty in her truth, not just the polish on the surface and the wrong ones. They were never meant to sit at her table anyway. She doesn't speak her truth for attention. She doesn't open her heart to be pitied. She does it because owning her story is an act of rebellion in a world that profits from her silence. She does it because healing isn't about forgetting, it's about integrating, it's about standing tall and saying, "This is who I am." All of it. Not despite the pain, but because of it. She doesn't erase where she's been. She honors it because every scar, every setback, every moment she thought she couldn't go on shaped the woman she is today. And that woman, she's not afraid to be seen. She doesn't compete. She collaborates. A bad woman knows that her power doesn't come from being the only one who shines in the room. It comes from lighting the damn place up So everyone around her rises too. She's not threatened by other strong women. She celebrates them. She uplifts them. She holds the door open with one hand and builds a table with the other. Because she knows the lie they fed us for years. That there's only room for one of us at the top. That scarcity mindset. That's not hers. She doesn't operate from fear. She operates from abundance. From legacy. From the deep belief that empowered women don't compete. They connect. She's done with the games, the gossip, the jealousy dressed as concern. She doesn't tear other women down just to feel taller. That's not power. That's insecurity in a mask. And she knows it. That's why she's intentional about the women she surrounds herself with. Women who hold her accountable, not hostage. Women who want her to win just as loudly when they're not in the room. That kind of community isn't built overnight. It's forged through honesty, humility, and the hard work of unlearning everything we were taught about being each other's rivals. She's not here for fake sisterhood. She's here for the real thing. She understands that confidence isn't it's contagious. Someone else steps into their power, it expands because she's not defined by comparison. She knows exactly who she is, and she's not afraid to make room for others to be great too. That kind of presence is magnetic. Not because she demands attention, but because she gives it freely to the right people in the right ways without losing herself in the process. She's mastered the art of standing tall without stepping on anyone else to get there. People sometimes mistake her kindness for weakness. They assume that because she lifts others, she can't possibly be strong. But here's what they don't realize. It takes a lot more strength to build than to break. It's easy to criticize. It's easy to stay small and throw hard, cheering when someone else is winning, even if you're still in the waiting room. What's powerful? Being secure enough in your own path that someone else's success doesn't shake you. It inspires you. That's the kind of woman she is. That's the kind of woman she... She's not naive. She's seen what betrayal feels like. She's learned the difference between allies and opportunists, but she didn't let it make her bitter. She got better. She refined her circle. She raised her standards. And now she's fiercely loyal to the ones who've earned her trust. She doesn't entertain drama, doesn't play into manipulation, and doesn't sacrifice her peace just to be liked. She's not interested in being part of every group. She's committed to building a community that actually aligns with her values. That kind, it's priceless. And even when she stands alone, she stands rooted. Because her identity isn't built on popularity, it's built on purpose. She's not afraid to walk away from spaces that no longer serve her. She doesn't chase inclusion in places that require her to shrink. She creates new spaces, builds new tables, writes new narratives, and she does it with a heart wide open and a spine made of steel. Because a bad woman doesn't just rise for herself, she rises so others can rise too. Not out of obligation, but out of truth, out of knowing that when one woman breaks free, she leaves the door open behind her. She doesn't chase love, she becomes it. A bad woman knows that the deepest connection she'll ever have is the one she builds with herself. She's not out here begging to be chosen. She's not losing sleep over people who can't see her worth. She's done performing for affection, done editing herself to be more dateable, done sacrificing her soul just to be kept. She understands now that love isn't something you earn by shrinking. It's something that flows when you show up fully. So, she does. She shows up with truth in her bones and softness in her hands, but never desperation, never fear. She loves from overflow, not from emptiness. She's not afraid of being alone because she's met herself. And she's not someone she's trying to escape anymore. She's built a relationship with her own heart. She knows her patterns, her wounds, her beauty, her flaws, and instead of judging them, she holds space for them. She does the work. She heals not just for a partner, not for the next relationship, but because she knows peace in her own skin is non-negotiable. She's not waiting for someone to save her. She's not a half looking for a whole. She is complete, complex, and beautifully human. And she loves herself with the same intensity she used to give away to those who didn't deserve it. She's learned that love without self-respect is just attachment in disguise. So she stopped confusing chemistry with compatibility. She stopped choosing people based on potential. She stopped settling for almost, for maybe for someday. A bad woman demands presence, consistency, truth, not perfection, but effort. She's not impressed by the chase. She's moved by emotional safety, by depth, by someone who sees her fully and doesn't flinch. And if that scares people off, let them go. She'd rather sit in silence than beg for crumbs from someone who doesn't know how to feed a soul. She doesn't romanticize chaos anymore. She doesn't call red flags a passion. She doesn't mistake emotional unavailability for mystery. She wants clarity. She wants depth. She wants the kind of love that feels like breathing, not surviving. And she knows that in order to have that, she has to embody it. She can't ask someone to give her what she's not willing to give herself. So she holds herself accountable. She sets the tone. She becomes the love she once searched for in all the wrong places. That's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's knowing that everything she's ever needed is already within her. When she loves deeply, but with discernment. She no longer pours into people who leave her empty. She no longer stays in situations just because they're familiar. She loves with her eyes open, with her intuition sharp, with her boundaries intact, because she's learned that love isn't sacrifice, it's sacred. It should lift, not deplete. And she's willing to wait for the kind of connection that honors her soul instead of draining her spirit. That kind of patience, that kind of self-worth, it took years to build. And now that she has it, she so protects it like jade in the wind. She understands that not everyone will be able to meet her where she is. She's not lowering her standards to be more accessible. She's not diluting her truth to be less intimidating. She's not settling into relationships that require her to abandon herself. She knows love is not supposed to hurt more than it heals, so she moves differently now. She chooses with intention. She loves with wisdom, and she walks away when it stops feeling like home. Not because she's unloving, but because she finally loves herself enough to know what she doesn't fear being misunderstood anymore. A bad woman knows that not everyone is meant to get her, and that's not a reflection of her worth. It's a reflection of their life. For years, she twisted herself into palatable pieces, trying to be soft enough, small enough, silent enough, just to be accepted. But that version of her was a lie, and lies are heavy. So she put it down. She stopped contorting herself, and she stopped contorting herself into something digestible. She stopped filtering her truth for someone else's comfort. She realized that the more real she became, the more people fell away, and that was the gift. Because what's real will never require her to betray herself to keep it. She doesn't waste energy proving herself. She knows who she is, and she's done offering explanations to people committed to misunderstanding her. She used to over-explain her choices, defend her voice, soften her power. But now she lets her life speak. Her values are clear. And her path, though often misunderstood, is hers, and that alone gives it meaning. She no longer needs consensus to move forward. She doesn't chase validation from the crowd. Her direction comes from within, not from applause. She understands that true freedom is when you no longer need permission to exist. She's not here to play by rules she didn't write. Society told her who to be. Quiet, accommodating, agreeable. That means being bold without apology, soft without weakness, clear without guilt. It means embracing the complexity of being both tender and tenacious. She doesn't fit in boxes anymore because she's not designed to be confined. She's fluid, evolving, real, so that threatens people who find safety in the predictable. But she's not here to make others comfortable. She's here to live fully, fiercely, and truthfully. She's no longer swayed by noise. People will project, criticize, misunderstand. She's learned that being centered is more powerful than being praised. There's a calm in her now that didn't come easy. It came from the fire, from the tears, from the days when all she had was her breath and the decision not to give up. That kind of calm can't be faked. It's rooted. It's earned. So when the world gets loud, she doesn't crumble. She listens, filters, and then moves with intention. She's not reactive. She's responsive. And that difference, that's power. She knows the price of authenticity, and she pays it daily. It costs comfort. It costs convenience. It costs relationships that were never rooted in truth. The reward, self-respect, peace, the deep, grounded knowing that she doesn't have to bend herself in half to be worthy. She doesn't have to be agreeable to be accepted. And she certainly doesn't have to be liked to be powerful. That knowledge has changed everything. It's why she walks into spaces without seeking approval, why she speaks up even when her voice shakes, why she shows up as the full damn force of who she is every time. And maybe the world still doesn't know what to do with a woman like her. A woman who refuses to hide, who refuses to play small, who refuses to apologize for her existence. But she didn't come here to be understood by everyone. She came here to live in truth, to walk in purpose, to shake things up. Because a bad woman doesn't shrink in the face of... She stands taller. She lets the whispers come, lets the assumptions fly, and keeps walking because her worth isn't up for discussion. It never was. So let them talk. Let them question this, understand, doubt. Let them watch from the sidelines while she rises anyway. Because the truth is, she was never made to fit their mold. She was made to break it. Every step she takes in her truth disrupts the story they tried to write for her. Every time she says no, every time she walks away, every time she stands firm in who she is, she rewrites the narrative for every woman watching. She is not dangerous because she's loud. She's dangerous because she's clear. Unshakable. Unshakable. Unapologetic. She doesn't need permission to take up space, to speak her truth, to live boldly and love deeply. She doesn't wait for the world to give her a place. She creates one, and in doing so, she gives other women the courage to do the same. This is what they don't teach you, that the most radical thing a woman can do is choose herself. Not once, not in theory, but daily, boldly, fearlessly, to wake up and say, I will not abandon myself to be accepted by a world that fears my power. So if you see her now, walking tall, eyes clear, voice steady, know this: she earned that. With every boundary, every heartbreak, every moment she refused to go back to who she used to be. She's not a bad woman. She's a free one, and that's exactly what makes her unstoppable.